Okay, so here's where we are up to this point. We have a virtual network that we created. We then created a virtual machine inside that virtual network, and we gave that virtual machine a public IP address so that you, as a regular user or anyone who has knowledge of what that IP address is, can access that IP address and then be able to actually get to the VM. And we demonstrated it after we created the virtual machine. We were able to sign in using basic RDP from our desktop into Azure. The key to be able to do that is to ensure that you have an NSG defined on the network interface card of the virtual machine. So here's where we are so far. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add some code into this virtual machine to be able to demonstrate VNet integration. And by VNet integration, once again, what we mean is that our app services that we create, and we're going to create one or use one or what have you, are able to access resources inside of the private cloud network that we have, not the public cloud network. For them to be able to do this, some capabilities need to be put in place that allows for them to be able to access those internal networks. And what we're going to do is we're going to build a service inside of here, just a basic HTTP server. And this HTTP server is what we're going to use to basically test out app services communicating into our virtual machine using the private IP address of the machine and not this public IP address that you see here. Now, in this sample, we're using code, but you can also use IIS. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So right off the bat, what we have here is a basic console application named Demo Server. As you can see, it basically has a basic C# program and not much else. And we're just going to get rid of that. And we'll create a new HTTP listener. And then we're going to add a prefix to the listener. So when you use star here, I'm going to use star. What it essentially means is this machine, this server, it'll use any of the available names for the given machine. And for those who have used this before, you'll note that I have an error here, which I'll correct in a second, but let's just go through and create everything. During that period of time, see if you can spot the error. Then we'll add our loop. And inside of it, we need some kind of indicator to say that we're actually listening. Yeah, there we go. And then we're going to basically make a call to get context. Calling get context is a blocking call. So basically, as your code goes through here, enters this loop at this point, it's going to continue to flow down. When it gets here, it's going to block. It's not going to unblock until basically this URL is encountered. So if you send HTTP localhost, and then demo2, that will work. Or maybe the actual IP address, so 10.1.2.3/demo2, that will also work. Or the name of the server, or the name of the machine, I should say, my laptop demo2 will also work. All of those will work, and you can use any of them here. So when the context gets back, we basically need to respond back. So in this case, we're just going to respond back 200. And then let's go ahead and let's just paste some basic functionality here. So basically, what am I doing here? Well, in this first part right here, up here, what we are doing is we're converting a string that they're going to pass in whatever it is. Basically, you requested, and then the path information that's been passed in. So in this case, it'll demo2. So we're going to convert that into byte data. And then once it's converted into byte data, in the next line, we're basically taking that byte data and we're writing it directly to the output stream. And then once we've written it to the output stream, we flush and then we close. So what this effectively is going to do is whenever you pass in that URL, whatever URL you pass in, it's going to actually just print it out in the response string and then just flush it and send it back to you. So the browser will actually show that. So now that we have that done, as you can see, let's go ahead and let's add the slash here. So just so you know, this was the error that I was talking about. If you don't have a forward slash and you try to run this, it won't work. It has to end in a forward slash. Okay, so we've started the server and we should be able to go now to localhost demo 2. And as you can see, it's just going to say you requested / demo 2, which is the request part of the message that was sent. Try some more things. Let's make the path a little bit longer. As you can see, it'll just reflect that. And that's pretty much it. So now that we have this, we're just going to publish it so that we have the actual binaries. And then with those binaries, we're going to actually upload it to the virtual machine. So publish into a folder. We'll take a second pass and actually make it a single file. There we go. So wanted to produce a single file. So like that. Publish that. Okay, so let's open up the folder. And we're going to open up the storage location where we're going to use. This is basically a shared storage location that both the virtual machine has access to and I have access to from here. That way I can just basically upload the file. What I'm going to do now. So let's take this file, let's upload it. There we go. Now we have it uploaded. Let's copy that URL. And then we can go into our virtual machine, open it up. Go through the setup real quick. There we go. Now we can paste this here. And kids, don't try this at home, by the way. Selecting to keep it. All right, so we have this set up now. We have it downloaded. So let's go ahead and let's put it into a folder, basically a server folder or something like that. So I'm going to go to root and make that directory. Okay, so let's just go to File Explorer and we'll copy the file from there. Perfecto. And then we can go back here and we can just basically run the server to start it. Okay, now we are listening. And in here, I can use the same convention. Forgot the forward slashes. There we go. So that is working. So right now, what we've done here is we've started this server and it's speaking locally. So I'm using localhost to communicate to it. So this server is responding to itself. What we're going to do now is enable access via this public IP so that you can actually get this request from outside of this server. But before we get going, let's see basically what happens if we just try to connect to it the same way as we've done before. Let's just get the full IP here. It's 131.73. Okay, so this is trying to access it using just the public IP without any changes done to the server. And as you can see, this is basically not going to work. And just to double check here again, as you can see, if I hit that, that works. So it's not like the server's down. The server's running. We're just not able to access it. So to solve for this, and we've done it in a previous video, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to disable the firewall, or disable at least the parts of the firewall that will allow for traffic to go back and forth through. Now, in this case, to speed it up, I'm just turning off the firewall. This is not recommended. Do not do this, especially not in production workloads, but not at all for any reason. Always just add the ports that you need to have access to, add them individually and specifically inbound, out, and outbound. Do not do this, what we're doing here, but this is just to illustrate. And you'll see that even when I do that, so even now that I've disabled the firewall, it's still not working. Well, what's blocking it? Well, if you recall, we created an NSG, which stands for Network Security Group, associated with the virtual machine that we created. As a matter of fact, you have to have a network security group enabled for you to be able to do any kind of public access to your virtual machine sitting inside of your network. So what we're going to have to do is go into that NSG and actually add those ports to them. So you'll see here that Azure does give you an additional layer of security, whether you want it or not. So even if you disable Windows Firewall, the NSG will still essentially protect you, and you will still have to go in and actually add that capability for the traffic to go through. Okay, so now that that's all done, we should be able to go here, and when we refresh, you can see that it's now saying you requested demo 2. This, of course, is coming from my local machine here, connecting to that public endpoint and not the private URL of the VM. So the VM is now exposed as a fully public web server. Tune in our next video where we will be creating an app service and setting up VNet integration to allow for the app service to communicate to this very server that we just created. Till then, happy coding and have a blessed day.